Make sure to follow us on Instagram at Whistlethrowers. It's a great way to interact with our show. Our DMs are always open for questions, topic discussions, and more. You will be able to find our new episodes and other announcements there.
Is Chris Godwin getting too much hate for the Hail Mary drop? All right, thanks for tuning back into the Whistle Throwers podcast. This is Jack Mubarak, joined by
Jack Slaymaker.
We're going to start off with the World Series today. So right now, as we're recording this on eve before Halloween, it's Game 3 of the World Series at Arizona, and the Rangers are up 3-0, and the series is tied.
I've liked the series so far. I know that it's kind of been a little bit controversial. People saying, "Oh, I don't like that there aren't big markets. I don't like that there aren't the two best teams." And then you have the other people who are saying that it's a great, competitive, fun series regardless. I'm in that camp. I loved watching Game 1. It was back and forth. Obviously, you had two huge moments with Seager's game-tying home run, which Joe Davis, the announcer, had a great call on. And then Adolis Garcia, who's been tearing it up, has another historic moment in the World Series. I loved it. Game 2 was fun too. It was just high scoring, I know, for one side, but it's still cool to see the Diamondbacks answer in such a big way. So I'm liking this series, even though the Diamondbacks upset the Phillies in a heartbreaking way. I'm still loving the series. I like watching the D-backs play. I like watching the Rangers play. So I'm tuned in.
Yeah, me too. I don't think it's bad that it's two small market teams, but the one thing I was hearing just from talking to random people is saying that they thought the Rangers were going to sweep the Diamondbacks, and obviously they're wrong. But I thought the Diamondbacks are equipped to contend against them, and they clearly are, and it's going to be a long series. I don't anticipate it ending in 5.
Mm-hmm. Now, this is a game series. This is what I said before the series started. I still feel that way. Yes, the Rangers are up 3-0 right now. There is a chance they'll go up 2-1. I really don't care. This Diamondback team has shown over and over how scrappy it is. They have the starters to step up. Cole Carroll's been playing still out of his mind. You got Marte still playing really, really well. The guys that need to step up have. Merrill Kelly, after the Game 2 collapse against Philadelphia, has really shown that the Diamondbacks can rely on him. The biggest question still is how the Diamondbacks can go when the rotation gets a little bit deeper. They just don't have that depth. But against Philly, it didn't matter. I don't think it's going to matter against the Rangers either. I really think that this Diamondbacks team can push it to 7, and I think they could still win in 7.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I know the Rangers have home field advantage too, but that hasn't slowed down the Diamondbacks at all. And they really feel like the Phillies from last year, and that's not to say that they're going to lose the World Series, because I actually think they're going to win it as well. But it just in the sense that they will play their brand of baseball no matter where they are, and they're not afraid of anyone. And I love watching that. I love watching it transpire, even though it ended us. It's still cool to see from an objective perspective.
100%. I'm very interested in what the reception going forward from Game 1 will be, because I think that was one of the best World Series games that we've had in a while. The only one that I can really think of off the top of my mind in recent years has been that good was the Dodgers game back in 2018 that went to 15 innings or something.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I think that first game was.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
We can move into the NFL now. So we're recording this on Monday, so the Lions and Raiders are playing right now as we speak. The score is 16-14 Lions with 6 minutes left in the third. This is a lot closer than I expected. Amon-Ra is going off. Detroit seems to be handling business on the offensive end. They're still out. David Montgomery looks like he'll be out for a little longer. What is the next step for the Raiders, though? Because they kind of have a QB controversy going. Jimmy G looks terrible. They're not even getting Devontae Adams involved at all, which is alarming.
Yeah, right. And honestly, there's a lot that's alarming about this team, the Raiders. Number one, your QB can't throw the ball to your best weapon, so that's a place to start. But then again, your coach can't scheme up Devontae Adams to get involved in an offensive game plan. I mean, that's embarrassing. That's truly embarrassing. And this guy who was an offensive coordinator for one of the greatest offenses ever, I can't fathom it. I can't fathom how bad Josh McDaniels' offenses have looked as a head coach. I mean, last year I know that they dealt with injuries, but it didn't look good even when everyone was healthy with Carr, Darren Waller, Devontae Adams, Hunter Renfrow. I mean, Josh Jacobs. It's a joke. It's a joke that Josh McDaniels can't get anything going. He's a terrible head coach. They need to cut their ties as soon as possible. I'd do it tonight after they lose the game, in a game which you should win, by the way, because the Lions, honestly, I disagree with you, Jack. They aren't handling their business on offense. They are giving the Raiders a few chances. Goff threw the pick six. They've had to settle for field goals on long drives, and the Raiders can't get anything going on offense, and they're letting the Lions pretty much just waltz to this win. It's embarrassing. I mean, the Raiders are a dumpster fire of an organization. They've been a dumpster fire of an organization since about 1980, and it's pretty trash. I hate their owner, the guy with the bold cut. I can't remember if it's Al or Mark Davis. I can't remember.
Mark Davis.
Yeah, I hate him.
Don't confuse him with Al Davis, because they might have the same last name, but that's for the similarities.
Right? Yeah. I can't believe it. I mean, that guy is such a dope. I mean, he was yelling at the Raiders fans to like know football in one of their games or something like that. Like Raiders fans were yelling at him, and he was yelling down at them from his box, and to know football, which by the way, that's pretty rich coming from him and the teams he's been owning. So. Yeah. They really need to start from the top down, and it starts with Mark Davis selling the team, which just isn't going to happen.
Especially now that they moved to Vegas, I can't even imagine how much money he's raking in at this point. Not to mention that the Raiders are the Davis family. Like Al Davis was the original founder of what was then the Oakland Raiders. Mm-hmm. He moved them to LA, so like this family has always a complicated relationship with the Raiders. But I 100% agree with you. McDaniels has not looked very good at all. The Lions should be winning by way more, like you said. The pick six was not good. What is very good to see, though, is that Amon St. Brown and Sam Laporta can still get involved in this offense, even when they're turning the ball over and not scoring touchdowns. And that's going to feel pretty good for Lions fans and the Lions as an organization going forward. That no matter how Goff is playing, if you can get those guys the ball, it's going to give you a good chance to win.
And as I said, they're doing well on offense. It looks like they turned it over on downs in the red zone.
Yeah, and earlier they had a 4th and goal, and Dan Campbell was like, he went for it, tried to draw him off sides. They settled for the field goal. I guess now they try to go for it up 2, which I mean, I know that's an analytics thing, but honestly, I would have taken the points in that situation just because I feel like you have to start playing the game a little bit shorter. Like if you go up 5 and the Raiders come down and score a touchdown, a field goal still gives you the lead at that point. So
yeah, I wouldn't even say that. I would say you're up by 2. You've been shutting down the Raiders pretty well the entire game outside the pick six. I would go up by 5. That way a field goal can give the Raiders to read.
Right, yeah. That's actually a really good way to look at it. Like, why don't you trust your defense a little bit and just take the points that they're giving you right now?
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens the rest of this game because it's going to come down the wire, it feels like.
Yeah, right. I mean, if the Raiders can actually find a way to move the ball. It was so frustrating. I was watching, the first half before we started. I mean, watching the Raiders play offense is so infuriating. I mean, they can't run the ball. They can't pass block. And when they do pass block, Jimmy G, he has happy feet all over the pocket. I don't know if you guys see that too. It's crazy.
That's not good.
Yeah.
At all.
5 targets, 1 receptions.
Yeah, I just don't. I can't wrap my head around how they can't get Devontae Adams involved. And I know I'm like a little bit of salty fantasy guy, but just forget my fantasy team. Like, you can't get Devontae Adams involved in the offense right now. I know you don't have Aaron Rodgers, but come on.
I mean, it's not lack of trying either. Like you guys said, he's gotten 5 targets this game.
Yeah.
So you have to find a way to get more than just 1 reception because that's just not acceptable, as you guys were saying.
Yeah. And here's the other thing too. Like some of the targets, like I'll put air quotes around targets, it's a joke. Like Jimmy G is throwing it 15 feet over his head, and it's like, yeah, he targeted him, but how does that count as a target? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I do want to move into the Eagles-Commanders game. So Jalen Hurts played amazing. The offense played amazing. A.J. Brown is a top 5 receiver this year, and he's not 5 or 4. But the defense is kind of alarming for Philly, if you ask me.
No, I disagree too.
Really?
I completely disagree.
Really?
I mean, the thing is, Washington always plays them really well. Bieniemy, the Washington offense is nothing to laugh at. I mean, they have weapons all over the field. I love their options at skill positions. Bieniemy is probably the best offensive coordinator in the NFL right now. And Sam Howell, I said it before too, Sam Howell doesn't look bad. I mean, he looks good. I think the Eagles made him look better than he is, but I don't think that means that Sam Howell is bad by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, this game doesn't really... I think the Dolphins game speaks way more to the Eagles defense than this one does.
How?
Because they shut down a better offense. I mean, they shut down... they held that offense to 10 points.
Okay, but...
The offense that scored 70 points, 7-0 in an NFL game, the Eagles held them to 10 points. That says more to me than this one.
31 on a rookie quarterback, though?
It wasn't 31. It wasn't 31. The last drive of that game, that wasn't anything.
Okay, 24?
Yeah.
24?
I'm not moved, no. In this NFL, like I don't see how 24 you're like, oh my gosh, let's all freak out. That's alarming.
It's a rookie quarterback.
He's not a rookie, actually.
Yeah, well, it's his first year. It's his first year playing.
He has Eric Bieniemy as his offensive coordinator, and he has Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, Logan Thomas, who has turned back the clock a little bit this year, Brian Robinson. I mean, you have them all on your fantasy team.
Yeah.
Are you going to tell me they're not good? Like, that's a good NFL offense.
No, they haven't been playing well at all this season, really. Besides, like, Terry's been picking it up the last few weeks, but it took the Eagles defense to make them all like superstars this year.
Yeah, game. I mean, the thing is, the Commanders put up 31 on them the other game, and no one has exposed it other than Washington. So I think it's just something that Washington does. I think it's matchups that Washington has. I don't think I look at this game and I say, I'm not worried at all. No. And the other thing is the Eagles defense made the plays that they needed to in the big moments. Like when they needed a stop, they got it. And that wasn't working early in the game, but then in the second half, Blankenship gets the interception. Reddick was getting in the backfield a lot in the second half, which was a positive sign. Reddick has been playing at an elite level the last couple games. I wasn't encouraged by the Eagles defense, but you have to remember too, bringing in Kevin Byard, brand new safety, they were moving some parts around, so I'm not too worried about it.
I think you guys pretty much covered everything, so I don't really have anything else to add.
Okay, I do want to talk about the Bills-Bucks game. The only thing I really want to ask you guys is Chris Godwin getting too much hate for the Hail Mary drop?
Yeah, he is. Because, I mean, I don't think people realize, like, how hard it is to, like, track a Hail Mary like that. I mean, there was a huge crowd. There's a lot of traffic there. And Godwin was trying to get to an open spot. And I feel like the meme pages were ripping on him. And that's fine. Like, it's a meme page. But, like, I think it was over-exaggerated because it wasn't like Godwin was staring at the ball coming down at him like a lot of the posts would suggest. So I think he is.
I agree as well. Like, I don't think people are kind of realizing like how little time he had from when he turned his head around. And it would have been a different story if he turned his head around like a second or two earlier. But like, it's a big crowd and he has no idea if like the ball's like even made it to the end zone, and you're expecting him to know where it is when his head is turned around. Like, no.
Yeah. And he had to get to the goal line. He wasn't even at the goal line.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's getting way too much hate for that. And the other thing, too, like you guys said, it can't come down to a Hail Mary. Like, in my opinion, the Buccaneers played way too well to let it come down to that.
Yeah.
No turnovers. You held the Bills to 24 points, and the Bills' offense just has not looked very good at all in the last couple of weeks. Yeah, they did get 24 points now, but still, they just don't. To me, they're not clicking the way that I thought that this offense would be clicking by this point in the season. And that's going to be a problem when you're playing against really good defenses in the AFC. Now, there's a ton of them, but still, we've seen it happen with the Bills before where they run into a team with a pretty competent defense and they can't do anything in the playoffs. And I'm worried that it's going to be a much bigger problem now than it has been in past playoff runs.
Yeah, I really agree with you, Aiden. And another thing that stands out to me is 427 total yards of offense and only 24 points to show for it. Like, it just feels like the score should have been run up a little bit more than that. And I'm not saying like, oh, you need 45, 50, but 35.
Right, no, not at all. But it shouldn't have come down to a Hail Mary in that situation.
Exactly. Yep.
This is against like the Bills team too, who we said in the past like plays to their opponent. And
yeah, right.
Baker, he didn't have as good of a stat line as Josh Allen did, but he played up to him more than I thought he was going to.
In my opinion, like, although Allen was 31 for 40, in my opinion, I felt like Baker was a little bit more careful with the football and a little bit more accurate. Like, I think that the disparity in completion percentage was just due to the attempts that Baker Mayfield was having to do. Like, they were playing from behind. He's having to push the ball downfield more. But I don't think, like, Allen obviously had a better game. But Baker Mayfield was not far off him. I agree with you on that.
Is this the new Baker?
Like, I think, like, I'm not even hating on this Baker. I think that he is obviously not a top 10 NFL starter, but he might be pushing top 15. I want to see how this season plays out, though.
Mm-hmm.
To me, the best thing that Baker has done is just cut down on the turnovers. Yeah, he did have a stretch where he threw 4 in a row in the game, but he only had 1 turnover in each of the games. So he only has 4 interceptions and 10 touchdowns, which I think if you're Buccaneers fans, you're pretty happy about that considering where Baker was at coming into the season. You just didn't know what type of quarterback you're going to get. So I would be very happy with the way that he's playing right now, all things considered.
I do want to move into the Bengals 49ers game.
So I think, like, if you looked at the stat line itself, I think you would say, oh, Brock Purdy didn't do terrible. Like, although he had 2 picks, the 1 fumble, like, he also threw for 360 yards. He threw a touchdown. He was 22 for 31. But the box score does not tell the story at all. If you watch this game, Brock Purdy looked feeble, in my opinion. He was just putting them in bad situations over and over. Like, it felt like every time the 49ers were getting something going, it felt like Brock Purdy did something that reversed that. The biggest example, obviously, is when they get down to the goal line and he rolls out to the right and just throws that terrible interception there. Like, it just felt like that was a trend for the game. I would be worried as a 49ers fan. I sat here after they lost to the Browns and I said this won't continue. And that's the difference with what the Chiefs and Eagles did this year. The Chiefs lost that opening game to the Lions and they flipped the script and they completely changed what they were doing. They rattled off 6 in a row, and I know we'll probably get into them in a little bit, but you're still, like, you're not panicking about the Chiefs right now. And same with the Eagles. They lose that ugly game to the Jets, and they have flipped things from that moment, especially offensively, and they have rattled off now a couple wins in a row, 2 wins in a row after that. The 49ers, they can't get out of this rut right now. And that should be concerning because the teams they've lost to are not powerhouse teams right now. Like, Browns are not. The Vikings obviously are not. And although Cincinnati, it probably coming into the season was 3-3 coming into the game. And yeah, they were turning things around, but they still weren't at peak form. And I still don't think they are at peak form right now. The one thing the Bengals did so well that I think won them this game was they stopped the run. Christian McCaffrey only had 54 yards, 4.5 per carry, which is really good. So, it's not like they shut him down, but they stopped the run and they made the 49ers abandon it because 12 carries for McCaffrey isn't typical of the 49ers, and that's not what they want to do. That's not their formula. So credit to the Bengals for this game.
Yeah, I would say they're back, like, completely back. Burrow looks healthy. Jamar Chase is tearing it up. The defense held their own against a very good offense from the Niners. Brock Purdy's decision-making looked awful this last game. Yeah. This is like the first of the 3 losses that they had where I can say that, like, with guarantee, because I didn't think that was the case for the Vikings or the Browns, but it definitely was the case against the Bengals. He just seemed like it wasn't. He didn't seem like himself at all. Like he threw that interception, it got voided, and then he lost a fumble after that. Like you just can't be doing that. One of the most important games of the year against one of the best opponents you're going to play this year. Like you said, I would be concerned if I was a Niners fan because like Trent Williams missed the game. I think it just shows the impact that he has and how reliant Brock Purdy is on that one side of the line.
Right, yeah. Agreed.
Here's a stat that you guys will definitely find interesting. Guess what the Niners' record is when Brock Purdy doesn't throw an interception this year?
Undefeated?
It's undefeated it's undefeated. Turns over the ball, they're 0-3. So the only way that the 49ers can win, at least right now, is if Brock Purdy plays a clean game, and he just hasn't the last couple of weeks. And I don't know if that's because teams are finally able to scheme against him. I don't know if it's because of the injuries to some of the better players. There's a lot of factors that go into it, but the biggest thing to me is that the 49ers need to find a way for him to get back to where he was early in the season, to make passes that are a little bit easier for him. Even though the passes he made weren't really that bad, I think it's just finding ways to make him feel more comfortable because he just doesn't look that comfortable right now. The other thing I found really interesting is that Kittle has had a lot more targets and receptions and yards the last 2 games, and lost both of those games. Kittle is a great red zone option, but I feel like when you're trying to get him the ball down the field the whole time, I don't know exactly what's going on, but to me what it seems like is he's getting way too comfortable with this one wide receiver, and specifically Kittle, when he's only targeting tight ends. When he's passing to other wide receivers, he seems more open, more loose with the ball. And it seems like that he's more willing to go after other targets. And I think that when he gets hyper-focused on a guy like Kittle, it just throws off his whole rhythm.
Yeah, especially when you have a guy like Brandon Ayuk. I think you should try to involve him more than he has been ever since Debo came out. And he did get more targets in this last game than I feel like he did the last couple that Debo missed, but still, I don't think it's enough because I think he could be a wide receiver 1 on many other squads.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I would be interested to see what he would look like as a wide receiver 1 because, like, it's like right now he's not looking. It's not like he's looking bad. I mean, he just put up 105 yards, I think, or something. He put up 100 yards this game against Cincinnati on 5 catches. It's like it's just outside of Ayuk, there just is not a major threat. And I'll tell you what, the bye week is coming at a great time for San Fran because they can get healthy this week and they can focus on what they need to work on because it's a lot right now. And although it's a lot, it's not super detrimental. Like it's fixable things. I was saying this about the Eagles too. Like it was things that they can control and they can fix. And when you have a team like the 49ers that's coached like the 49ers, that you're looking at that positively because you trust them to turn it around.
They do have a tough schedule after the bye, though.
Yeah.
Like, don't get twisted. They need to get things fixed immediately.
Yeah.
And I'm not worried about them missing or anything, but you want to win the division. That's what every team wants to do is win the division, especially now with the extra wildcard games because you're guaranteed home field advantage for at least one playoff team if you win your division. So, I mean, you've got Jacksonville, Tampa Bay, 2 games against Seattle, and in between against Seattle's game against the Eagles. So, to me, they got to get it right, or else looking at being a wild card team, and that's just not nearly as nice going into the playoffs.
Yeah, and you're right on their schedule too, because like with these next 4 games, 3 of them are on the road. Like you're staring down 6 losses down the barrel right now. Like that's very scary. And I'm not saying that I think they're gonna lose all 3 of those road games, but you know it's scary.
Yeah, it's definitely scary. Again, like you said, the bye week's coming at a great time. If there wasn't a bye week, I'd be way more worried. But I think they might lose a couple of those games. But still, if you're sitting after that with 7, 8 wins, you're feeling much more comfortable than you are right now.
Right, and it's like I don't know if this is putting them on their heels, but I feel like it would definitely like scramble a locker room just a little bit is the Seahawks being in first in the division right now. Yeah.
Well, so that could do one is it can really scramble you or it can motivate you because now this is the first time since Brock Purdy's been started that you're not in first place, that you're starting to lose a stretch of games. That can really bring a locker room together. It can be detrimental as well, but in my opinion, that San Fran has with the success they've had in recent years, to me, they will come together. They will want to dominate those games against Seattle. And I think that the call if the locker room doesn't fracture and stays together. And like I said, I think it's that case in the locker room, like totally just falling apart.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I got a couple like short questions for you guys, and then I think we could move into the NBA. But starting with Will Levis, do you think this was just a great matchup for him to have a monstrous debut, or do you think we'll see more of this moving forward?
I think we'll see more, honestly. I was liking what I was seeing from him. Like I talked about earlier this year, you know, when I'm looking at a rookie QB, I want to see the rhythm, the timing throws, and it wasn't like a lot of that, but there were a couple throws that I was like, that is an NFL throw. Like that's an NFL caliber throw right there. And when you have a weapon like DeAndre Hopkins, who, I mean, he absolutely turned back the clock in the most random time this week because he looked cooked for most of this year, and he absolutely went off. When you have a weapon like that, that's reliable and that you're building chemistry with, I tend to like that trajectory.
Aiden, did you start him this week?
He did, yeah.
Started this week, yeah.
Wow.
I did not know what exactly to expect, but DeAndre Hopkins looked really, really good. And the one positive that I love is wasn't just targeting one guy, because Hopkins had 6 targets. Bronco also had 6 receptions. So 2 completely different guys. One's a tight end, one's your star wide receiver. But then he also had 3 targets to Phillips, 4 targets to Derrick Henry, 4 targets to Spears. So, like, if you can spread the ball like that as a rookie quarterback, that's a really good sign. I'm very, very worried if Hopkins had like 9 targets this game and everyone else had less than 5. So I think that balance sets him up really well. Let us see what happens when he has a game where he turns over the ball. That's usually the really telling signs is what happens when you have a bad game. Because it's really, really easy to put a bunch of good back for you last year. But what happens when you have a bad game? I don't know if it will happen to Will Levis or not. But there's a reason why teams are a little bit hesitant on him. There's a reason why the Titans didn't start him out of the gate this season. And there's a reason why they waited until now to start him over Ryan Tannehill. It's because they still didn't know exactly what to expect. So, yes, this is a great performance from Will Levis. I'm not saying that he's going to completely fall apart, but I want to wait a couple of weeks and see if he can put it together or if he's just going to be sort of up and down like a lot of rookie quarterbacks are.
Yeah, I do think he had a great opportunity to have a performance like this because he went up against the Falcons and they lost their best defensive player in the middle of the game in Grady Jarrett with an ACL injury. And I think it will be really tough to repeat it next week with the Steelers because they have a really good defense and it will be a lot tougher of a situation for him to repeat. However, I do think he did earn the starting spot, at least for the next couple of games. And I think he's going to start on Thursday night. Only because
they did announce that he's going to be playing on Thursday. And the way that he passed the ball to Hopkins, we just didn't see that from Tannehill this year. So I think that's another reason why they're going to be starting him.
Yeah.
Well, I'm interested to see how he does this week against a better defense. Like, you're going to have to go up against an elite pass rusher in TJ Watt. You're going to have to go up against an elite safety in Minkah Fitzpatrick, an elite coaching staff with Mike Tomlin. Well, defensive coaching staff. I shouldn't say offensive.
Matt Canada.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But I'm interested because it's going to be a road game, prime time. You know, this is the first time that the whole world's going to be watching Will Levis. And it's like, the other thing is Will Levis was the most scrutinized QB coming out of this class. Like, people don't realize that because he wasn't taken in the first round. But, like, you think he was the hot topic of meme pages after draft night with his girlfriend and everything. And then his girlfriend left him. And that sparked a lot, which I'm sure it was nothing related to football, you know. But obviously people are going to run with that on social media. Like, he's been a hot topic. Like, he hasn't played, but he's been talked about in the media a lot. He's been trashed in the media a lot. So there's going to be pressure on him because people, especially in the sports world, people don't like when you prove them wrong. And if Will Levis goes out and proves people wrong 2 games in a row, the narrative is going to completely flip on him.
Yeah. I think he has a really big upper hand in like the quarterback room for that team because Malik Willis doesn't like to throw a football at all for whatever reason.
And that's the other thing. Like Tannehill got hurt last year, and Willis came in and didn't look like that ever.
Yeah, and it seems like for a while they wanted to move on from Tannehill, but they had no better options, and it seems like they might have something here. Mm-hmm. But I will say, Will Levis will prove me wrong if he keeps this up, because in my brief period of watching Penn State football, I saw nothing out of him.
No, yeah. If you watched Penn State back when Will Levis played, you'd say Will Levis never had a shot to get to the NFL, because when he would come in for Clifford, it was pretty much like Army's offense with the triple option. Like it wasn't like, they were just doing a bunch of read options, QB run plays. Like they did not want to him to throw the football. And now look at it.
Yeah.
At Kentucky, he was a lot better then, but I still had questions about his arm strength, even coming out of Kentucky. And after the preseason, those questions weren't answered, but now he's starting to look more comfortable. And I think that's a really good sign.
Yeah, definitely.
And quickly, the Cowboys beat up on the Rams. Is this just the Cowboys like capitalizing on like bad opponent situations, or is this like the Cowboys like showing that they're still a contender?
I don't know. I'm actually kind of impressed with how they played, because I don't think that the Rams are a bad opponent. I think that the Rams may look like a bad opponent on paper, but I mean, they still have Matthew Stafford at QB. Like they still have.
Well, I don't know about moving forward yet.
Yeah, I know. Did he get injured?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So he's
MCL
not.
Or UCL sprain.
Oh, he did.
Thumb or something.
Oh,
yeah.
Damn, I didn't even see that. But I mean, and he didn't really look good when he played either. So yeah. But I mean, they still have McVay. They still have Cooper Kupp. Like they covered Cooper Kupp insanely well. When he gets 10 targets and only catches 4 of them, like that's a credit to the defense. They played him really well. They kept the top on him, and Nakua too, because it feels like no one's really been able to keep Nakua in check. Like I think the Eagles actually did it the best. Like they held him to just like a few catches and not that many yards. Like he still had a good game on
that. That was at the expense of Cooper Kupp though, because he went off.
Right, because Kupp, they got Kupp way more involved. Like I really liked what Dallas did with Nakua and Kupp. I was impressed. I was very impressed.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how to feel about Dallas yet. They've had so many great wins, but their 2 losses have just been so bad.
Right, yeah.
I mean, that was Arizona's only win, and then to just get smoked by the 49ers on Sunday Night Football for the entire nation to see, like, that's not good showings. So I think that this Cowboys team has a lot of talent. They've shown that they can win games. They show they can dominate games. They do it against opponents that they're supposed to be and opponents that is going to be in competitive games. And I just don't know yet, because the teams they beat up on, frankly, this was their best win by far.
Oh, yeah.
Because the Giants and Jets and Patriots, none of those teams are even close to them or should be. The Chargers game was their worst win, but even then the Chargers are still a very competitive team. So the Rams, the way they did, was a really good sign. Playing against Philadelphia this week will be very, very interesting. 2 teams are both coming off very different types of wins. Both teams are going to be fighting for a division right now. I'm very, very excited for this game.
Yeah.
That will be very telling about where these 2 teams are heading.
It's going to be a great game. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to take the opposite side of you guys. I kind of think this is one of the games that kind of reels the Dallas fans back in to like the season. Like I don't see Dak Prescott throwing for 4 touchdowns more than like one other instance this regular season. And I also think that this was the week to play the Rams, because like not Stenson Bennett went in, but Ripien, I don't even know his first name, went in, but like this was the week to like beat up on the Rams, because I think hadn't it gone that way with Stafford, I think it would have been a way closer game. And yeah, this is just like one of the instances where like the Cowboys will give you enough and then pull back.
Yeah, and I feel like this too. I think Aiden was nailing it on the head. Like, the Cowboys play extremely well when they punch you in the mouth and you can't punch back. They play extremely well. They dominate you. But what hurts the Cowboys is when you punch them back in the mouth. And I think you saw that with San Fran. And I think the one game last year that they didn't do that was the Philly Christmas Eve game, which obviously I think it's like there's a little bit extra incentive in that Christmas game at home, division rival, prime time. Like, I think that if they didn't punch back, it would have been incredibly embarrassing. It would be unacceptable. So I'm interested to see this week because it's been a while since we've seen a Dak Prescott, Jalen Hurts showdown. It's been since that Week 3 Monday night game in 2021 when the Cowboys dismantled them on Monday Night Football. We haven't seen it in a while, so I'm excited to see it because it seems like every time the Eagles and Cowboys are coming together for like a classic matchup, one of the QBs gets hurt, whether it's Hurts or Dak.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
Yeah, and I think we could finish off on the Broncos-Chiefs game.
Yeah.
Me personally, I'm not really worried at all for the Chiefs.
Yeah, right.
I think this is a fluke game for them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they were missing anybody, but I just think it was just like one of those off weeks that they're just going to shake off immediately.
I completely agree.
I don't think the Broncos are going to play as well as they did in the rest of the season.
No, I actually think that's the best the Broncos can play, and it wasn't even that good, to be honest. Like it felt like they were giving the game away to the Chiefs, and it's like as good as Mahomes is, like he is going to have a game or two like this every year where like things just don't work out. I think the Broncos pass rush did a good job. Like they were disrupting it. That's how you beat a quarterback. That's how you beat a good quarterback is you get pressure on him. So there wasn't much Mahomes could do. He made a couple bad decisions. Like the one pick he had, he was targeting Kelsey and he wasn't open. I don't know if he didn't see the underneath defender, but Kelsey wasn't open. It was a bad decision. He had, correct me if I'm wrong, he had 2 fumbles. I think he had 2. Or maybe, yeah. Well, I know the one fumble he had late in the second quarter. That was pretty bad, but it wasn't entirely his fault. But then I know later in the game, I don't know if this was a fumble or just a sack, but he tried to make something out of nothing, and it was just a really bad decision. And he was moving around, like runs into his own O-lineman. Like I think that it was just a bad game for Mahomes, and
so he had the one fumble, so I guess that was just a sack.
Yeah, right, okay. Yeah, but that was a trend. I felt like he was taking a couple bad sacks. Obviously, the interception, the fumble, bad decisions. But, I mean, if you think you're going to see that out of Mahomes again, you're crazy.
Yeah.
I do find it very interesting that the Eagles and Chiefs have both struggled against bad teams in their division.
Mm-hmm.
The Eagles beat the Commanders twice because the Chiefs looked awful on that Thursday night game. They lost that one too, and then this time it slipped. I find the narrative very interesting that the Chiefs get a pass, but the Eagles don't. But that's a whole other thing. But yeah, I totally agree with you that the Chiefs are going to be.
Yeah, and hold on, one more thing. How I feel with the Eagles' defense is how people should feel with the Chiefs' offense. Like you're not worried about that, and the Chiefs have destroyed better defenses than the Broncos, and this week the Broncos defense owned them, and there's no shame in that, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Quickly, so the NBA season started. What are you guys looking out for, and what is like the biggest story so far? For me, it's got to be Cam Thomas. Like he has over 100 points through 3 games. On above 55% shooting in all 3 games.
Yeah.
That's scary.
Yeah.
That's really scary for someone you were hiding on the bench the last 2 years.
Right. That's the confusing thing. It's like Cam Thomas has done this before too, where he's just put up like great numbers on very efficient shooting, and then he has like one stinker, and then the Nets like lose confidence in him. And I just don't understand that. Like I feel like this is a guy you should ride the bad times with. That's how it works in basketball. Sometimes like you have a great shooter, they're going to struggle at points, but you got to just ride through it. I love what Cam Thomas is doing, and if you compare that with Mikal Bridges, like they can be a really sneaky team.
Yeah, the biggest thing that I've noticed, and it's a local thing because we're from Philly, but I have found it very interesting that Tyrese Maxey is looking a lot like the superstar point guard that we were hoping he was going to be the last couple of years. And right has just like nowhere almost, it feels like, to be a 6-man that the Sixers have had in a while. And I just was not expecting that from him at all. not to the extent that he's been scoring for them.
I completely agree with you. Like, he's been a very pleasant surprise. And one thing that I was not looking forward to this season for the Sixers was I was like, what is this bench going to look like? Because they have brought in like a couple names that you're just on the fence about. I haven't seen Mo Bamba yet. Is he?
No. He didn't play at all last game.
Yeah, they've been playing Paul Reed over him, which I love because I'm a big Paul Reed fan.
Me too.
Yeah, he's not the biggest backup center, but he just adds that extra athletic ability that you just don't have with Embiid on the court.
Yep.
And I feel like Mo Bamba is just too similar to Embiid in the fact that he's a center, but you're not getting that same athletic ability, especially when you're a guy like Max. You want guys that are able to get down the court as quickly as possible.
Yep.
And if Max is giving you that point guard, you're going to need centers that are able to do that.
Yep.
I just want to say I have been advocating for Oubre for a while, and especially him being in a Sixers jersey, and everyone's like, oh no, he'd fit terrible because he's streaky shooter, and like he just doesn't fit because Tobias Harris is like the starting power forward, and like what about now?
Yeah.
What about now?
He's a very good option off the bench. I've been very pleasantly surprised with Oubre and Beverly. Those are two moves I was very worried about because they could either work really well or they could work terribly. And yeah, we're only 3 games in, but I am encouraged with this direction the Sixers are moving. I want to say I think they should, like, I've been saying this since the Harden dilemma really started. Like, you need to just cut your ties with him and count your blessings and move on. I think you should look to trade Harden for some more depth because the way this is going right now, they look like a well-oiled machine. Like, and yeah, there's not too much star power, and I'm not saying the Sixers are now championship contenders when they get rid of Harden, but
no, absolutely
I think it's like you will be happy watching Sixers basketball. You know what I mean? And it's like I feel like if we just drag out this Harden thing just for him to come back to the team and do what he did last year, it's like you're going to want to rip your hair out. So I like watching this team play.
Yeah, and I think that's the other thing, too, is that when you have a guy like Harden on the team, it drives the fans away.
Yeah.
When they're playing, when the product on the court is actually really, really good, but the front office stuff is going to keep people away from going to games, which is unfortunate because at this point, and yes, it's still very early. No, my mind has not changed that the Bucks and Celtics are going to be the 2 teams at the end of the year competing in the Eastern Conference Finals. And it is very nice right now to be watching good basketball in Philadelphia. And like I said, James Harden needs to go or else fans are not going to come back.
I did notice, like, the home game opener, like, there were a handful of empty chairs, and I think that was telling for, like, how fans are feeling about Harden, the team, the front office, everything.
Right, everything, yeah. Because, like, it's blatantly obvious that the feeling around the Sixers right now among Sixers fans is not good. And you're right, Jack. It was telling that there were, like, it's not like it was empty.
No, it was like 94% capacity, but like,
which is not good for the Sixers. Literally, like, since the Embiid train has started, they have sold out like every game. They have been one of the best NBA teams overall in ticket sales. And yeah, I was actually going to bump it down a little bit just for like more perspective. I was going to say like 80% full, which is like good for an NBA team on a weeknight, but like,
94. I got it on the dot.
You got it right? Wow, damn.
On the
That's
dot.
crazy.
Damn.
Yeah, no, it was telling to me too, though, because like as the game was going, even when they weren't panning out, like to the broad shots of the arena, like it, the lower level, like I was like, that isn't normal. Like,
yeah,
you know, when you can pick out the empty seats in the section, that's not normal for a Sixers game.
The other quickly, the Nuggets are also 3-0. I didn't have them as one of the teams I thought was going to be in the finals, but they're looking just as strong right now as they did at the end of last year, which is a very good sign for Nuggets fans. Yeah,
right. And back to, like, it's the same thing that I was saying before with them, too, like, how they looked like that AAU team. Like, it becomes more and more apparent every time I watch them. It's like, I can literally pick out a guy and be like, that was this kid that I played against, like, 10 years ago. And it's pretty insane. Like, they have a really, really, really good team that, like, they play winning basketball. That's all they do is just play winning basketball. It's beautiful to watch. But I wanted to ask you guys, because this was yesterday, what did you think about Milwaukee stinker at home? They lost by 17 to the Hawks.
Yeah, that's not a good loss at all. I don't really know look, the Bucks have only played 2 games. Most teams have played 3. It has something to do with that.
Yeah.
Sixers by 1 as well. And I don't really know what it is about them because still scored a lot of points. Giannis still put up 26.
Mm-hmm.
They just let the Hawks score more. And maybe that's because Lillard's just not the type of defensive point guard that this team is used to.
Yeah.
But that is literally my only thought because it's still basically the same team that they've had the last couple of years and has dominated.
Mm-hmm.
And look, it's the second game of the season. Like I said, I'm not going to totally overreact to this. Remember when the Sixers started off 3-1 and then won 15 games the rest of the year?
Yeah.
So you can't read too much into only one loss, but I will say that it is a problem that when Giannis doesn't seem to be scoring 30, 35, this team just doesn't seem to win. And I'm interested to see if that lack of defense at the point guard position continues to be a problem.
Yeah, and I will say, because today they beat the Heat. It was I feel like answering back like that is good, is a positive sign because dude, yesterday they had 23 turnovers. You are not going to win a basketball game wasting 23 possessions. Today they cut it down to I think it was less than 15. I really liked what I saw from them today. And again, I didn't watch the whole game, but bits and pieces that I could tune into, I was watching. I liked what I saw defensively, and Lillard just played a lot better today. 2 of 12 is not going to cut it anytime. And he didn't shoot the 3 well tonight either, but I felt like he was getting more rhythm looks, getting to the line a little bit more, and he looked more efficient. So I think that's what we're going to see more of with Milwaukee because, like you said, Aiden, it's early and they're kind of a fresh team. Although they have a lot of the same pieces, bringing in Lillard is a huge change. So they're going to adjust a little bit.
Yeah, I think offensively with Lillard, you're fine. You only scored 6 points in that loss. So you just have to figure out rhythm around it. And like I said, Lillard's defense, it's not bad by any means. It's just not what the Bucks are used to.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest adjustment you have to make. But if they can do that, they're going to be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say I feel like Lillard's going to have a lot of off games this year just because he's not in the same role that he was in Portland because he was the entire offense over there and he has to kind of be more of a catch and shoot guy that he is Giannis now and not have the ball in his hands a lot. So I think it will be growing pains for that, but they're still going to contend and they will likely make it to the conference finals.
Agreed. Yeah. I will say though, I think it's more intriguing that the Celtics haven't really had a hiccup that the Bucks had last night because, like I said, moving those pieces in, you had to bring in 2, Kristaps and Holiday are 2 big pieces that you got to integrate. And the Celtics, they've looked really good to start. I'm really impressed with them. They had another good one today over Washington.
Yeah, I'm gonna drop a hot take right now. I think the Suns are gonna be the next Nets. I know it's only been 3 games, but Beal hasn't played yet. Booker sat out Saturday, and I feel like this is going to continue a lot throughout the season because KD's not really healthy, even though he's had perfect attendance so far. It kind of came as a shock to me that Beal wasn't ready because it seemed like he was going to be ready at the start of the season. And if you're not going to be on the court together, you're not going to build chemistry, and that's the only reason the Nets didn't win a championship.
Yeah, and I'm not sold on the depth that the Suns have either. When you brought up the Nets, it's a good comparison because the Nets from those times, they didn't really have great depth, and there wasn't much outside of that big 3 that moved the needle, I'll say. And it's a good point you brought up. If they are not going to be on the court and you don't have depth to truly compete, then that's not a recipe for success, and I'm not buying in. And I haven't been bought in on the Suns at all. And I said this to my friends the other day watching football. The Sun, I brought up that comparison, the same thing, and I said since the super team era kind of died as of recently in the NBA, I have not been moved by these big threes the one the Suns are bringing in, and like when the Nets were starting off with Kyrie, KD, and Harden, and like it's just when you buy in like 70% of your salary cap to 3 players, that's not how you win. That's not how you build a winning team in any sport.
Yeah, you could do fine in the regular season with that, but the moment you get to the playoffs, you need to actually rely on some key bench pieces. They don't have anyone, like, just going through their bench roster. There's not one guy that I'm like, oh, yeah, I could rely on you for a playoff game. In the playoffs, you're usually only using 4 or 5 guys off your bench.
Yeah.
You have to be selective about it, and I just don't see how they can be selective about some of these guys.
Yeah, that's a really good point, too, with the bench, because like I'm going back to the finals right now. I'm just going to see how many the Nuggets like truly brought in. I mean, they went 5 deep, truly. I mean, their starters were all like Murray 43 minutes, Gordon 42 minutes, Jokic 37, Caldwell Pope 36 minutes, Porter Jr. had 23, and then Bruce Brown came off the bench with 30 minutes. That's 5 right there. That's like they played a majority of the game. And then Green and Christian Braun got 15 minutes each. It's like there isn't much to go around when you get into the playoffs, and it's like you can't just be like Yutu Watanabe can't play in the playoffs. I'm sorry, I like him, but he can't play in the playoffs. And Nasir Little, dude, I'm a diehard UNC fan. I love Nasir Little, dude. He can't play in the playoffs. Like I'm telling you right now, he can't.
Do you guys have anything else?
That's all.
No, that's it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll leave it at that. All right. I think the Game 3 ended.
The World Series?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Rangers won
won,
3-1.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, we'll see you next Saturday.